Hello everybody. This is all a bit scary. It's scary for three things. One, I'm on some sort of box. Secondly, I've got a very distinguished audience and you make me a little bit frightened. And thirdly, I'm having to tackle IT, which I'm a complete Luddite over. So fundamentally, I've got to do what you should never do, go from PowerPoint to video. Oh my God, will we do it? I don't know, but we'll give it a crack. I just want to say genuinely how delighted I am to be here, and having done a little bit of homework about what you've been doing in the Southwest and the Southeast together in your Southern partnerships, I mean, I just think you're way ahead of the game. And I think that the opportunity you've had to build over the years on a number of organisational arrangements that have shown you the blindingly obvious need to work collectively has played well in this agenda. And I think the examples that you've spoken of this morning, the workshops that you've attended, have illustrated all that. You know, and therefore I don't imagine for a second there's anybody in this room that doesn't get the need to work out what the game plan is, to bring together as one health and the environment, health of our planet, health of our people. It's not that we don't get that, the trick is how to do it. Now, I haven't got a solution here particularly, but I just want to reference one thing in terms of, because I'm going to show you a video in a minute, which I think will put in context what I want to say to you. I want to talk about Incredible Edible for a minute. Wasn't going to do that, but will now. Sarah Venn has already given a workshop this morning on what's happening around this part of the world, and it's totally fantastic. But I'm very pleased to say we have cracked the health nut in Tomberden and in the Calder Valley. And now, because of the wonderful framework you've got on sustainability and transition planning, we are now making every doctor's surgery and the grounds of the hospital edible. We are working up and down the valleys with volunteers, with members of staff, with patients, to reconnect that sense of well-being with what you see when you look outside your window. And can I say there's nobody more up for it than the estates people. So whereas I normally have a bit of a downer on estates people, if there's any NHS estates people in the room, well done, mate. Because I just think that's totally amazing. And you know, it's kind of like they've been released from the prickly plant dilemma. And now they're planting veg and fruit and all sorts of things all over the place. So there's good news stories from the north as well as down here. But what I really wanted to say, I think, was shall we put what we can do and are doing in the context of people who aren't in the room today? Because by understanding how the people who aren't in the room today think, we can work out tactically how collectively we come together even more to share the great stories that's going on, to brainstorm the great ideas about how we can actually together build sustainability in both our NHS models and out there in our citizens. So let me just have a bash at this and see if it works. Now then, thank you.
The economists say if you clear cut the forest, take the money and put it in the bank, you can make 6 or 7%. If you clear cut the forest, put it into Malaysia or Papua New Guinea, you can make 30 or 40%. So who cares whether you keep the forest? Cut it down, put the money somewhere else. When those forests are gone, put it in fish. When the fish are gone, put it in computers. Money doesn't stand for anything, and money now grows faster than the real world. Conventional economics is a form of brain damage. Economics is so fundamentally disconnected from the real world, it is destructive. If you take an introductory course in economics, the professor in the first lecture will show a slide of the economy. And it looks very impressive, you know, raw materials, extraction, process, manufacture, wholesale, retail, with arrows going back and forth. And they try to impress you because they think, they know damn well, economics is not a science, but they're trying to fool us into thinking that it's a real science. It's not. Economics is a set of values that they then try to use mathematical equations and all that stuff and pretend that it's a science. But if you ask the economist, in that equation, where do you put the ozone layer? Where do you put the deep underground aquifers of fossil water? Where do you put topsoil or biodiversity? Their answer is, oh, those are externalities. Well, then you might as well be on Mars. That economy is not based in anything like the real world. It's life, the web of life that filters water in the hydrologic cycle. It's microorganisms in the soil that create the soil that we can grow our food in. Nature performs all kinds of services. Insects fertilize all of the flowering plants. These services are vital to the health of the planet. Economists call these externalities. That's nuts.
Okay, you get the general picture. I'm going to let you take that back. So basically, what I want to kick off by saying is we are in alien territory.
This is big.
And music.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. It's a great source of frustration that for so many years we have known, have we not, from the early work of Pioneers in the States, from the work that Muir Gray did on NHS Forest, from all sorts of individuals who have made it blindingly obvious to us that our health and the health of the environment, both our immediate environment and our planetary environment, are inextricably linked. And yet, for some reason, the people who make the decisions, based on the economics of today, which is based on a monetary system that was invented by us in order to make things better, so we didn't have to keep lugging cows all over the place in order to make every transaction, we have allowed that to seriously damage our ability to prioritise in a way that allows us to invest in a future that is worthy of our children. And what we need to do as we tactically move together as a pack on this one, and we must hunt as a pack on this one, is to remember that we are speaking to people for whom the status quo works very well, thank you very much. And the need to think about alternative forms of investment and where you want to invest them and how you want to invest them is something that is a little bit scary to them. What you're doing here in the Southwest, I think, and what we're doing with Incredible Edible, and what so many groups all over the place are actually doing, are pushing the boundaries to see how far we can go within a framework that isn't quite fit for purpose, to see if we can get outcomes that are better than the outcomes that we've had in the past. And that is really, really important. But as collectively we build up a critical mass around the stories we're telling, the case studies that we share, the fantastic outcomes that you have spoken about this morning in terms of dementia, in terms of loneliness, in terms of mental health and physical well-being, all these things which come about at a fraction of the cost of some of the commercial alternatives, all these things we have seen will take your breath away because they simply work, and the people that are engaged in them know that they work. But then often they go back into little burrows where it's all too difficult to work out how to make that normal. And the day that that becomes normal and not best practice is the day we've cracked it. Because I'm bored to death with best practice. It's not good enough. So, natural capital. Have we got the... yeah, I have every faith now. I'm not going to keep looking at the screen to see what's actually up there. For those of you that may not know what that's all about, and I'm sure you do, the definition is up there and I don't need to read it. It's the air that we breathe. It's everything on this planet that creates the life support system, that creates healthy individuals and healthy places. And the closer that the NHS and its practitioners and all that come into partnership with it can actually find ways of investing in that natural life support system, the less money we'll be spending on mopping up the messes that we created because we undermined it in the first place. What I want to do today is explore alternative ways of looking at that, share some of the stuff that we're demonstrating in the north of England with you, although, as I say, I do think that you here are way beyond some of the stuff that we're actually talking about, but maybe primarily tease out what the roles of LNPs might be, local nature partnerships, in this brave new world. And I want to remind you of an ex-minister, Rory Stewart, who was fab, when he said, okay, we went into a room, Sue, I don't know if you were in that room, but he said, okay, we're going to talk about the 25-year vision for DEFRA. Now, don't bother telling me we need to get out of silos. Don't bother telling me we need to work together. I know that. We've known that for donkey's years. Go out there and find me a systemic change that will show me that the environment can play a more vital part. for those people that sit around the cabinet table who aren't really interested in what I'm talking about. Go out there and be brave. And it seems to me that the conversations that have gone on in the room today, so far, could actually be the building blocks of that alternative proposition for DEFRA to punch above its weight for as long as it exists in a cabinet room where people are counting other beans. So I think one of the first things that I would say is, when we know the system is broken, we have no alternative but to work collectively for something that builds more kindness and more opportunities for people to live happy, healthy lives. We have no alternative but to start to redefine collectively what we mean by prosperity. And that is underpinned by the values that we hold dear, about justice and fair play, about good health, and whether that's mental and physical, and just a sense that we're passing something of real value on to our children. Now, not a million miles from here, they're getting it a bit more right, as far as I can see. Just over the border, wouldn't it be great if we could nick it? I want to propose that we do, actually. But anyway, we've got the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. It's just fantastic. It's a small piece of legislation, and it will be as good as the people putting their shoulders to the wheel to make it happen. But actually, here we've got something that talks about a prosperous Wales, a resilient Wales, a healthy Wales, an equal Wales. All the things that bring together and knit together what we care about in a piece of legislation that says every single policy that is enacted in this country will reference the outcomes against that piece of legislation. It's really important. It's very challenging. But I think we could do well to learn from what they're doing. And if there's examples in this room where you have been working collectively with colleagues in Wales, it would be great to share them. It's very early days. But with a framework like that, a proposition nationally put, we stand a much better chance of being actually able to achieve against some of the outcomes that we hold dear. I can see no reason, because I don't really believe in rules, and I know it's kind of difficult when you have a job. But I actually think, wouldn't it be quite interesting if we worked out what that meant and what those proposals might be in terms of what we're doing in this country? I'll come back to that. But then I want to just share with you what we're doing in the north of England around natural capital. You know, I used to do stuff. You know, so I've chaired a health trust, and I've led a local authority, and I've advised government, and I've done whatever I've done. So I kind of know how things work. And what I do know is that in every single room of all those bodies, nobody ever talked to me about natural capital, about investing in the environment, about actually seeing the continuum of life from one species across all. Nobody ever spoke of anything like that. And when 80% of the people think urban, that is still the case. So if you have got your champions and your visionaries down here, nurture them, love them, and tell their story, because there are barriers to be broken down, and you're starting to do that already. This is a stylised map of my part of the world, which is fantastic. It's the South Pennines. You know, it's a countryside agency designated area. It's not designated in terms of national parks or AONBs, but it's a countryside character area that has an integrity that is built around the quality of its moorlands. Its moorlands, its woodland cloughs, and the market towns in its valley bottoms. And it is surrounded by 3 city regions. So it is the living heart of some major conurbations in the north of England. And for centuries, certainly decades, the need to invest in the moorlands of the South Pennines has gone by the board. Nobody's really interested in it. Local government, not my business. Health, not my business. Regeneration, not my business. And therefore, what has happened as a result primarily of the Industrial Revolution is that we are now living with degraded landscapes that are a major health issue. We are living with landscapes that are losing peat at a rate of knots. And when you think that the peatlands of the uplands in the South Pennines are our equivalent of the Amazonian rainforest, and when you think that for a relatively small amount of money, you could actually bring back into good health by rolling out some of the work that's already going on with Moors for the Future and the Peak District National Park and ourselves, you could actually, within 10 years, bring those moorlands back to become the carbon sinks they were meant to be. Why on earth are we not focusing on that as a national priority, given where we are with climate change and the challenges we've got? And the reason we're not is because nobody except environmentalists is talking about it. Except after this type of thing happens, which is the moorland fires, leading to this type of thing. And then suddenly, folks are talking about it. Because the degradation of the moorlands of the South Pennines and in other parts of the world has created the opportunity to devastate towns and villages in the valley bottoms. And that isn't just about the loss of income. That's not just about the loss of shelter. That's about major health issues that are coming through on respiration. That's major health issues on stress. This has devastated communities and will continue to devastate communities unless we start to take it seriously. So, you know, for the first time ever, local economic partnerships are talking to us about these things. For the first time ever. Fantastic. It's a pity it took that for it to happen, but they are. Now, suddenly, we're starting to break down that us and them of economics, environment, and social, and we're starting to think collectively, in the round, which is the only way that human beings need to see the future. It's just madness for us to have these specialisms. And suddenly, we're starting to say, OK, let's talk to our citizens. Not everything can be the Pickering effect, but let's talk to our citizens about serious investment in our uplands, serious tree planting, and engagement of understanding by getting more people up there how they are functioning. We're on a road, and it took a disaster to make it happen, but hopefully that started to turn around opportunities for conversations, opportunities for reprioritisation, and opportunities for us to start to think outside the box of investment. Oh, it's ultra-virus if I spend this money in this. No, let's look at the outcomes that we want, and let's find the most effective means of finding the investment to make it happen. One of the other things we've got in the South Pennines is one of the vastest array of rights of way anywhere in the country. We've got packhorse trails. We had the Tour de France coming through. We've got huge opportunities for people to start to get out within an hour's drive of where they live into a rural setting that is uplifting of the spirit, where we can start to see the twite which is being reintroduced into our part of the world through the work that we're doing, where we're starting to see the opportunities for people to understand their archaeology as well as their environment, where we're starting to get young people from the middle of Bradford who have never been beyond the edge of Bradford out into the uplands to feel the wind in their hair and on their faces. We're starting to do that by building on the tradition of Kinder Scout and so many more. Wonderful examples of people understanding the importance of natural capital in their lives. But you know, most of the people that go out there are not the people who are in greatest need. We've done the analysis. Monitoring the engagement with the natural environment, which has been going on forever because it was kicked off when I was with the Countryside Agency, says, who is it that doesn't come into our uplands? The poor, urban, young. That's who doesn't come into our uplands. So how the Sam Hill are we going to do that? Well, we've just decided we're going to have a kite festival. So landowners, utilities, local authorities, engineers, artists, you name it, not health yet, but we shall see, are working together from the very heart of our multicultural centres, Huddersfield, Dewsbury, Halifax, Bradford, Burnley, Blackburn. These are the communities of the South Pennines. Working at the heart of those communities to say, you're not a problem, you're a solution, come and help us make a kite. Many of these cultures have that in their blood. So instead of being somebody that's being done to, they're actually going to inspire their other residents. And then, in 2018, we are all going out in every green space we can get, from our town centre parks through to our uplands, supported by Yorkshire Water, who want to see this happen, who want more people to get the benefit of that natural capital of the uplands. And it will, you know, hopefully put a smile on a lot of faces and hopefully bring fun into the lives of a lot of people who are seriously challenged in some of our urban centres. And then the other thing we're doing in our part of the world is around pollution. Yorkshire West, which abuts the South Pennine Local Nature Partnership, is looking at Leeds, where pollution is the second greatest killer after smoking, and saying to the local economic partnership, do you want to invest in green infrastructure? Because you've got an issue in terms of the number of people who can get to work or whatever it is, but you've also got an issue about the viability of your city centre. And the local economic partnership is listening to them, as they are doing in London and as they are doing in Bristol, as they are doing in other parts of the world. But they're listening because suddenly the environment is relevant to them with their needs and objectives. They're listening to them and they are incorporating in their basic plans and, more importantly, in their investment planning, green infrastructure. So that we're starting to see at the hearts of some of our poorest communities the creation of green spaces. But we're also talking about vertical spaces, rooftop spaces. We're talking about the spaces even between tram links. This is really important because now it's not just folks like us that are talking about the importance of natural capital linked to health. Insurance companies, developers, regeneration agents, all these people see that if we don't find alternative ways of working together to bring the environment into the heart of our towns and cities, insurance costs are just going to go through the roof and there's going to be a mass exodus. And we're going to see disinvestment in a way that we've never seen before. So suddenly my enemy's enemy becomes my friend, and collectively people are starting to talk to those that are demonstrating an alternative proposition. But here's the thing, and here's the opportunity. It did come with a set of instructions, but we do seem to have lost them, and we do need to operate in a different way. It's a huge opportunity. You know, I am not negative about all this. I've been around this block a long, long time, as many of you in this, and never has there been a greater opportunity to get people to listen to you who never, through their arrogance, listened to you before. Now we have an opportunity to say the environment of this planet, the health of this planet, and our health and well-being should absolutely be two sides of the same coin. And for as long as monetary is the system, that'll do. What we need to do, however, is to take even more opportunities. What you are doing here in the south needs to be told to the north. What we are doing in the east needs to be shouted to the west. We need to communicate better, we need to get our messages clearer, and we need to empower our champions to go out there and challenge. Because the traditional decision-making centres have got a problem about, so what next? So let's use the opportunity of DEFRA's vision. Let's use the opportunity where, you know, we're all wondering about what the Sam Hill's happening with Brexit or climate change, or I'm not even going to mention the T word. Let us make these opportunities to say, let's just feel a bit cocky about it, because what you're doing is fantastic. And let's share that better. And let's just be a little bit sharper and more tactical when we have those conversations with those people in the room who didn't think we were relevant. Thank you very much.